Hello chess friends and welcome to your Out of Chess channel and welcome to a remarkable game from the computer chess rating list website, the popular CCRL. We have here Stockfish 16 against another top engine Alexandria in an amazing classical variation of the Nimzo-Indian Defense, and this is one of those games in which I think we'll see again everything. First of all, great defensive ideas, so Stockfish had to defend the position in the beginning, then remarkable, very amazing middle game plans, but then also cool tactical shots, and then we'll see a really crazy endgame idea here by Stockfish. So in my opinion, very beautiful game for us to follow. So let's see now what happened here with the white pieces. Stockfish opened with the move d4. Alexandra's response was knight to f6, c4, e6, knight to c3, bishop to b4 leads now into the amazing and really one of the most popular defenses against d4, leads into the beautiful Nimzo-Indian Defense. So we have now queen to c2, which is now the so-called classical variation, castling a3, kicking with the bishop, and now after bishop to c3, queen to c3, black gave up now the bishop pair in an early state of the game, but it's a common plan for black because black has now great access to the e4 square with the support of the bishop here. White is facing many positional problems because of the outposted knight on e4. So I think it's a decent compensation for the lost bishop pair for black here. Playable line, has been played many times in chess history, also with great success for black. Very great opening theory so far. We have b6 by Alexandria, preparing now bishop to b7 and knight to e4. We have now knight to f3. Now comes this idea, and now after move e3 we have d6, bishop to e2, knight to e4. The issue you see in these positions is that, okay, white has the bishop pair, but it's not really this optimal bishop pair that's crossing all over the board. So the bishops don't have so far such a great activity. Black has very good chances here with this knight on e4. White has to step back with queen to c2 and now knight to d7, castling, and now f5. This move is very common in the Nimzo-Indian Defense, but also if we have played maybe against the Bogo Indian Defense, black is playing also many times this idea. We'll try now rook to f6, rook to h6, attacking here the h file. If possible, even include the queen into the game, and maybe if possible also to include this other knight into the game. So if you don't react correctly, I guarantee you could get smashed in many of these lines. So let's see now how Stockfish will defend against this rook to f6, rook to h6 here idea by black. We have knight to e1. Stockfish doesn't want to tolerate this knight on e4, was trying now to play the move f3. Now comes this idea, queen to h4. The queen is activated because the knight is not controlling anymore the h4 square, but the issue a little bit here for black is that when you play this aggressive move queen to h4, which is perfectly fine, you're leaving also now this c7 square unprotected because the queen is not anymore on d8, and Stockfish will use now this moment also to attack the queen side. So now the main target for white is somehow to crack the position around the square c7. We have f3, kicking with the knight, knight to g5, and now Stockfish plays immediately c5. Great move. Although this square is taken by both of the pawns on b6 and d6, and also by the knight on d7, Stockfish is not waiting for a second here, attacks the queen side immediately. We have now b takes c5. Stockfish doesn't want to take, plays now b4, is trying simply to split the position on the c file. If you take, of course, c takes b4, then you get this one, queen to c7. You have to play a passive move, bishop to c8, and now after queen to d6 or something. White is much better. For instance, you take this pawn, this bishop is coming finally into the game. So now actually in this position the bishops are breathing again, and this is now an open position that's simply favorable for the bishop pair. So that's why after move b4, rook to f6, Alexandria is saying, okay, you have your attack on the queen side, but I will continue now my attack on the king side. The idea is clear, and rook to h6 seems already very dangerous here for white. We have now g3, kicking away the queen. We have knight to h3 by Alexandria, king to g2 by the fish, and now queen to h5. Again, Alexandria is trying rook to h6, and in some lines, of course, even some ideas like knight to f4 are possible, direct check, and then with queen to h2 it could be very dangerous here for white. We have b takes c5, rook to h6 by Alexandria. Very tricky ideas here already. Stockfish is forced now to play the move rook to h1 because Many of us, I would think, would go for this line. C6 is a fork, but as I said, knight to f4, king to f2, rook to queen to h2, with the support of the rook is simply game over here for white. Very, very wild stuff. So after rook to h6, Stockfish has now to defend this h2 pawn. We have d takes c5 now. We have rook to b1, attacking the bishop, bishop to c6, and now bishop to b5. Stockfish is finally getting rid of the best minor piece, I would say, now by black. This very unpleasant bishop on this diagonal is simply trading off. We have bishop to b5 and now a rook to b5. And now, believe me or not, already we have a critical moment of the game. And in the beginning, it seemed to me that black is doing everything fine here, but now comes such a I would say long-term idea that Stockfish will show us here, because the issue now for black is actually this loose knight on h3. It's really not the optimal square for the knight, although the knight had its fun. The knight attacked, of course, white in many of the sidelines, but now the knight on h3, which was really a great attacker, will become now the main positional problem here for black. So let's see now what are black's options here. For instance, again, let's see, if you try here c takes d4, then after e takes d4, rook to f6, you have to maybe step back somehow. There is always this problem with queen to e4. We can attack simply this one. Also queen takes c7 in some lines is possible. Queen to c6 is possible. So simply, I think black would simply collapse on the queen side here. So that's why one of the problems that you have is, for instance, if you try maybe to step back with your knight on g5, if you try to improve the position of the knight, then after h4, knight to f7, knight to d3, it's very dangerous already here for black. In some lines, the queen could be even trapped with knight to f4. So also not really an optimal position here anymore for black. But now after rook to b5 that Stockfish plays, Alexandria played now the move g5, which is the most aggressive way to play, but now you have taken the square for the knight. The knight doesn't have any more escape route, so from this point on, I think Stockfish will show us now here really a beautiful positional idea. Stockfish will lock out now the knight on h3, and this knight will be locked out for the whole game. Really wild stuff. Look at this. After knight to d3 that Stockfish played, we have now g4, and Stockfish is passing through with f4. The knight is simply out of game. And what should you do when you maybe, I don't know, lock one of your minor pieces till the end? So you see now this knight doesn't have any squares anymore. Whenever you reach such a position, it could be also bishop, when you maybe trap or lock your opponent's bishop, then one of the basic strategic ideas is here to simply reach the endgame stage. Trade off everything. Trade off every rook off the board. Trade off even the queens. Now the game doesn't have to be so complicated because the knight is not going anywhere. Really crazy. Now from c takes d4 that Alexandria played, we have e takes d4 by the fish, knight to b6, knight to e5, good square for the knight, of course, queen to e8, and now queen to c6. Stockfish is saying this knight is your main problem now through the whole game. We have queen to c6, knight to c6. Okay, maybe this bishop is not also the best piece of white. It's still blocked out by its own pawns. But the knight on h3 is not really going anywhere through the whole game. And this bishop still has maybe some kind of an activity. Maybe we can even sack the pawn, play bishop to b2. At least it will get somehow into the game. But the knight on h3 is really bad. Rook to f6, rook to e1, knight to d5, rook to a5. Simply attacking here the pawn. We have after move a6 by black, king to f1. Of course, a good move, because you don't have to even do anything about this knight. Even if you go, for instance, with your king on e2, still this knight is locked out. The knight will never be able to jump on the square f2. We have h5, we have bishop to d2, h4. Alexandria is desperately, of course, trying somehow to open the h file, maybe somehow include the knight into the game, but Stockfish is not reacting. Go simply for the c7 pawn. We have rook from f8 to f8, rook to e5, king to f7, knight to b4, rook to b8, and now Stockfish simply puts more pressure against the pawn on a6. We have knight to b4, and of course a takes b4. not allowing, of course, any open files here. Stockfish is locking everything here, even with bishop to c3. When that happens, you'll never be able even somehow to get your activity on the d file. So Stockfish with both of these pawns on b4 and d4 is locking out potential rook activity here by black. So Stockfish neutralized both of these rooks, but also, as we said in the middle game stage, also this loose knight on h3. Rook to b6, rook to c5 attacking. Stockfish goes simply for this other pawn on a6. We have rook to h8, and now rook takes a6, forces a trade of rooks, and now Alexandria is simply going closer with the king to the action. Stockfish is not doing anything here. Stockfish again plays on the simple idea, locking out the knight. Stockfish is not rushing here, simply wants to include the king into the game and go maybe for this pawn. The knight is bad anyway now, as we said. So rook to b8, rook to a4, protecting, getting the king closer. Trades of pawns we have here on the g file, and now the king gets closer, but now also Stockfish king gets closer to the action. We have rook to e8, king to d3, of course, king to c4. Stockfish is getting closer and closer, and this bishop is controlling the knight out of game. So far, we have to say this bishop is, of course, not good, but it can we always include it into the game with a potential d5 move. We have rook to e8, rook to a6, we have rook to b8, and now rook to a5. Now Stockfish plays a couple more moves, and now retreat simple with rook to a1, king to c7, rook to a5 again. We have king to d6, and now a beautiful move here by Stockfish, d5. Stockfish noticed, of course, the problems of the knight on h3, simply opens finally the position for the dark square bishop. What should you do? If you play here c takes d5, then the bishop is coming here, then we play b5, we have a passer, and with the support of the bishop, this is, I think, game over here for black. So after move d5, we have now e takes d5. Okay, Stockfish lost a pawn, but now we have a rook to a7, king to e6, the bishop gets improved here. We have rook to c8, king to c3, the king is getting closer, king to b5, rook to e8. Now Stockfish attacks simply the pawn on c6. Alexandria defends it, and now another beautiful move here by Stockfish. Stockfish sacrifices even another pawn after a couple of trades of pieces here in bishop to d4. We have the trades of rooks, and now after king to b4, believe it or not, in this particular position, Alexandria resigned. So what's the issue? For instance, you try to get the king closer, we'll always play into the opposition here, go for the f5 pawn, the knight cannot move, as we said. Game over simply here for black. So great game by Stockfish, I would say. Great defensive ideas in the beginning, because you saw Alexandria had this common attack in the Nimzo/Bogo Indian defense. In the Bogo, I've seen also this rook to f6, rook to h6 idea many times. But then Stockfish defended, managed to lock the knight on h3, never allowed this knight to get into the game. So in my opinion, very a beautiful positional game here by the strongest engine in the world. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas in the popular Nimzo-Indian defense. If you want to see more beautiful positional but also amazing tactical games, check out our commented chess games played by computer series. Here's the link of our playlist, and if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.